All right, ready to go. Good evening and welcome to the City Council, Norman Utilities Authority, Norman Municipal Authority, and Norman Tax Increment Finance Authority meeting of February 10th, 2016, or 2026. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Gandisberry.
Here.
Councilmember Peacock.
Here.
Councilmember Bruce.
Here.
Councilmember Grant.
Present.
Councilmember Nofire.
Here.
Councilmember Hinkle. Councilmember Blodgett. Here. Councilmember Dixon.
Here.
Mayor Holman.
Here. All right, please join me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1, a proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming the month of February 2026 as Black History Month in the City of Norman. I entertain a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation.
So moved. Second.
The motion on the floor is to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast and the proclamation passes unanimously.
And will Sharina Perry please join me at the podium? A proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming the month of February 2026 as Black History Month in the City of Norman. Whereas since its origin in 1926 by the father of Black history, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, in his pursuit to raise awareness of African Americans' contributions to civilization, Black History Week began and evolved into Black History Month. And whereas the year 2026 represents a significant national milestone, marking 100 years since the federal recognition of Black Americans and reflecting a legacy of progress, resilience, and continued pursuit of equity in the United States. And whereas the 2026 national theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations, highlights the enduring tradition of recognizing, preserving, and celebrating Black history through organized national observances over the past century. And whereas the Urban League of Greater Oklahoma City continues to be a principal advocate to offer the total community of Oklahoma with systems that provide opportunities to workforce and career development for over 75 years. And whereas the Alliance of Black Employees, a City of Norman employee resource group established in 2021, also provides support and representation to the Black community in Norman, while providing non-Black communities an opportunity to learn the Black experience, to better understand diverse perspectives, and whereas the Norman Human Rights Commission continues to work to dispel prejudice, advance fairness, mutual understanding, and appreciation for the worth of all people. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black History Month in the City of Norman, and encourage residents to observe the month through education, reflection, and civic engagement. Passed and approved this 10th day of February, 2026. Say a few words.
Mayor, council members, and Norman constituents, thank you. And I tell you, I moved to Oklahoma in the late 80s from New Mexico. I came from a diverse community, And the first place we moved to was Maysville. My dad was transferred. He oversaw safety for Texaco Refinery. I'd love to say that our experience in moving to Oklahoma was good, but it wasn't. Every day when we were in Maysville, we were stopped by the police as we left town. We even wondered if there was a presence. We were told that 35 years before we had moved there, Black people had lived in Lindsay, and they were burned out of town. A coworker of my father's told him to try out Norman. Take the family and come see Norman. Norman was the first place we saw a sense of diversity. Though it was still very different, as I moved, and I was 14 years old at that time, and I went to Central Mid-High. I, as a young person, was coming to figure out who I was. Did it matter that I had Black skin? No, because those that looked like me still came from a very different cultural experience than I did. Did it matter that the number of Hispanic people in the school were few? No, because they were still from a different cultural experience than I had come from. That's when I learned that the reality is that people were more comfortable with what was familiar. And until we learned and chose to hear people's story, and hear the authentic telling of their stories, that we would build relation and that we would come to understand. I started my first business. I graduated from Norman High School in 1991. I then went on to attend the University of Oklahoma, even though I was offered a full ride scholarship to historic HBCU. My mom said, no, you can't leave Oklahoma. So I stayed and I went to OU. I started my business in this community and became a government prime contractor and was the only African American woman in the country in this space. Today, I stand before you as the only African American woman in the world in the space of polymers. I invented a plant-based alternative to petroleum-based plastics. It is distributed globally. It is backed by the federal government, and we deliver our solution through governments around the world. In fact, we are the first only biomaterial in this space that has actually been exported from the U.S. to Asia, which is normally more advanced than we are. I will tell you, even at OU, it wasn't a great experience. But I believe we have a responsibility to go back and give to those who are challenged. Today, our students at the University of Oklahoma, those that are brown, that are from Latin countries, have fear. They have fear and they have concern among their students. They are there and they are there to get an education, and we have a responsibility as a community to support them. I chair the advisory board of the Multicultural Business Program at OU. I also am on the Price College of Business. I support the women's basketball program. This year, I received recognition as one of the 5 Oklahomans of the year. I have had my image displayed on the NASDAQ sign in Times Square. Last month, my patents were issued in Japan as well. I run a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that has continued to grow with a technology that is advancing, and I am African American. I am Black history. I am New Mexico history. I am Oklahoma history. I am American history, and I am world history. Those were the stories that Dr. Woodson wanted to make sure were told. Thank you for the proclamation. Thank you for the acknowledgement for every brown and Black person that dares to believe that it's possible.
Thank you very much. You're a part of Norman history, too. Council announcements, and we'll start with Ward 1.
just kind of, the person was just kind of mentioned by our speaker that we had and everything. I was just wanting to point out, Dr. Carter Woodson, back in February 7th, 1926, that actually was the first one that created Black History Week and was able to propel that over multiple years into what we now know as Black History Month and everything. I want to thank Dr. Kwanzaa, in charge of our public schools, music, choir, all that stuff. She put together and was invited me to a really, really nice celebration for Black History Month that was just held this last Saturday out at our Arts and Entertainment over off of Journey Drive and everything. That was really, really good celebration. We even brought in an outside guest singer and everything like that from Broadway that's out touring with Hamilton that was able to perform for us as well and everything. So definitely want to thank everybody for being a part of that, being the history that's helped create Norman, Oklahoma, and everything else, and especially what you've accomplished as well. I also want to remind everybody, pretty much I would imagine everybody here's already voted today, but thank everybody that got out and voted. Thank everybody that took that time to make a difference in your community. The true change can be made at the local level. That's where your one vote can be the difference in a certain passage of anything being passed on council or not, by your voice being heard or not. Your single vote can make that difference in some of our elections. Some people's won election by less than 10 votes and lost elections by less than 10 votes. So it just shows how important every vote is. So thank everybody that took that opportunity. Thank everybody that put their name in to run for city council, to go out there and knock those doors, to go out there and spend that time away from their families, spend their money and everything to be able to run for a seat that pays what this seat pays, with the responsibility that it holds. So it says a lot for that. I want to give a shout out to our Boy Scout in the back that came tonight also and everything like that. I want to say it's always great to have somebody like that with the youth come out here to City Council, kind of see what we do and everything like that as well. And also, anybody wondering, I had a Q&A in January out at the Eastside Library. I'll be doing another Q&A session at the Eastside Library on February the 20th, starting at 5 p.m. We'll answer and try to ask and talk about any questions that might be on the petition ballots coming up, the arena, anything else you might want to talk about. Please come out and say hi.
Thank you. Ward 2.
Thanks. I just also wanted to commend everybody that put their name on the ballot today. It takes a lot of guts to even enter the arena, and so you've got my respect, win or lose. That being said, if you guys did forget to vote, you've got 16 minutes and 30 seconds, so stream this meeting on your phone and head to the polls. Thanks.
Thank you. Ward 3.
Just good evening, Ward 3. Man, I've had a lot of good doorstep discussions, and I've learned a lot, and I just appreciate the insight that that was given, and looking forward to hopefully serving for the next 18 months or so, 15 months till July 27. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ward 4.
Yes. Good evening, Ward 4 and City of Norman. First, happy Black History Month. And then next, we have a First Courthouse annual meeting, February 28th. It will be 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and it will be at the Development Center, which is 225 North Webster, and there should be letters mailed out to the neighborhood within the next week. And then we have Art Walk, February 13th, 6 to 9 p.m. Check out the shows. If you go to the Depot, that's emerging artists, and they could always use some love. So thank you.
Thank you. Ward 5.
Good evening, Norman, and especially Ward 5. It's Election Day. I would also hope that everybody watching this and here in person went out and voted today, and if not, you're down to 15 minutes. I would also like to thank every person that has put their name on a ballot. You will never believe how grueling and amazingly hard it is inviting that level of scrutiny into your personal life. So thank you to each and every person that has ever even tried this. So I would like to end that just by saying that if you see a candidate, whether you voted for him or not, be nice to him, just say thanks, listen to him, and then part ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 6. Thank you. Ward 7.
Good evening, Ward 7 and Norman residents. I also wanted to say Happy Black History Month.
And I just wanted to put out there that on Sunday, February 22nd, from 1 to 3, I will be having a listen and learn at Cobblestone Creek Golf Club. So I would love to see you there. And that's it.
Thank you. Ward 8.
No announcements for Ward 8.
Thank you. I would also, yeah. Okay. I would also encourage everybody to think about attending the Art Walk on Friday evening in downtown Norman. Lots of great artists and some shows that are going on, and just go out and support the local businesses on Main Street and in the downtown area. And then also wanted to thank everybody that was involved in organizing and putting on the Mardi Gras parade this weekend on Main Street. I think we're still the only city in the state that has a Mardi Gras parade, and it was really a lot of fun to be a part of that and get to ride in the parade and just see all the people out and about. And really any opportunity to close the street for an hour or so to get everybody out there is a lot of fun, and encourage everybody to check it out next year if you haven't been before. And then also wanted to just mention that I spent a couple days last week in OKC at the Oklahoma Municipal League Congress of Mayors, and we discussed a lot of legislative policy that affects cities, like infrastructure and housing and municipal finance and things like that. And it's just always a great opportunity to meet with elected officials from all across the state of Oklahoma, from the smallest towns to bigger cities like Norman and Broken Arrow and Lawton. And I'd like to see more participation from Tulsa and Oklahoma City and OML, but it's really great to hear the stories from local elected officials from all four corners of the state, and hearing their different perspectives about the issues going on in their communities, and mostly finding out that a lot of our issues are really similar, and that the scale may be different in Norman versus Miami, Oklahoma, but a lot of the issues that we face and the issues that our constituents face are very similar. And so it's really great to have that opportunity to meet with them. And then just one of the fun things that we did was the mayor of Stillwater and I got together and co-authored a piece of legislation that for economic development purposes under state law to require OU and OSU to play a football game every season, home and home. And it passed the body unanimous with no debate, and so it will go to the legislature for consideration whether it actually happens or not. But we felt that in Norman's case, we'll be playing New Mexico and UTEP at home next year. So a non-conference game against OSU would be much more beneficial to the local Norman economy than playing New Mexico or UTEP. And same thing for Stillwater. It'd be much more beneficial for their local economy to have OU come visit every other season. So it got a round of applause, and everybody thought it was fun, considering all the really tough issues that we were really debating all day long. So, and just an example of the mayor of Stillwater and I, Stillwater, mayor of Norman, coming together to see what we can do. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. And then just last thing, like my colleague said, still got about 12 minutes to go vote. And like they've mentioned as well, a lot of local elections in Norman are decided by very few votes. It's not uncommon for an election in Norman to be decided by less than 100 votes or less than 50, or like I've mentioned many times, 21 votes the first time I ran. So it really does matter, and the votes that we make up here really do matter and have an impact on everybody's daily lives. And as was mentioned as well, just thankful for everybody that put their name on the ballot and put themselves out there, and open themselves to scrutiny on social media. People may not have known who you were at all before, and now you're on all the pages. So, and so anyway, I really appreciate that. It makes our community stronger when we have people step up and willing to do that, and it makes us even stronger if our public also goes and takes the 5 minutes or so to vote. So anyway, with that, we'll close out the council announcements and move on to the consent docket. And this is an item placed on the agenda so that the city council, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine agenda items that they wish to be approved or acknowledged by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with approval of all council members, that item will be heard in regular order. Staff recommends that item 2 through 21 be placed on the consent docket. And I'll entertain a motion to place items 2 through 21 on the consent docket.
Motion?
Second.
The motion on the floor is to place items 2 through 21 on the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to place items 2 through 21 on the consent docket passes unanimously.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent docket.
Motion?
Are there any comments from council regarding any item on the consent
Who
docket?
was the second? Yes, Councilmember.
Councilmember Grant?
Yes. I got an email about the annual report provided by the Norman Sports Commission. This is item 8. And it was fuzzy about the economic impact shot, which their calculations, this constituent said would be 4.125% of city sales tax, but he was missing a 1.25% that goes to the Cleveland County Jail, and our local sales tax is actually 4.25%. There was also in that presentation a small percent that went to other local taxes. It is not an input that was used by the Sports Commission, so the Destinations International Company will be reached out and will ask for clarity on where they got that other input, and I think we can talk about that in Business and Community Affairs for clarity when we have a presentation on this. So I just wanted to acknowledge that since I was reached out about it, and I forwarded that information onto the constituent, but in case anybody else was curious. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, the motion on the floor is to approve the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to the motion to approve the consent docket passes unanimously.
All right, on to the non-consent agenda. Item number 22 is consideration of an ordinance upon second and final reading, an ordinance rezoning property located at 1751 East Imhoff Road from the Rural Agricultural District and Light Industrial District and place in a planned unit development. I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the ordinance on second reading, section by section.
Motion?
Second.
Is there a representative from the applicant? There is, Mr. Joyce.
Yes, Mayor. See if we can get you out of here in time to watch the results come through. This is a multifamily, basically a student housing development project on Imhoff Road. We have had multiple postponements through this process to work through neighborhood comments, and I'm excited to show you a few of these tweaks throughout the process, and 2 more ones tonight after unanimous approval of Planning Commission, but this applicant wanted to go a little farther and try and ease concerns, so I'll point those out as well. It is a 32.5-acre site, and as you can see, is surrounded with quite a bit of multifamily to the east, and then to the west, to the east, Lennar is kind of a very dense single-family product type recently approved. And if you went farther east, you'd have the Villages at Oakhurst, the city's project that's going up right now. Just to orient you with the site. The current zoning right now is A2 agricultural, but clearly is an infill project as we develop all around this. This is a kind of an infill proposal, and it aligns with the AIM plan you can see highlighted there on the side. This is urban high-density AIM use, which calls for very dense multifamily, and that's exactly what is proposed here. So really quick, north now, flip to the my left side of the screen. Imhoff would be down on the right side, but this is what was unanimously approved at Planning Commission. The 2 changes, one at the very southeastern edge is a 3-story apartment building where residences were originally proposed. Hearing some of the feedback again at Planning Commission, this developer has made the decision to flip that amenity building and that multifamily building to move the height and the residence even farther west and get as far away from the east as we can. As you just visually see, even this plan, the goal was to keep all of the buildings as far west as we could and protect the single family to the east. The other change as we move north, staying on that eastern buffer, the planning commissioners asked if we could take a look at not having a pedestrian straight walking path that connects to Twisted Oak Drive. They wanted to see if we could have that meander a little bit, and that is the case. So here's the first change that shows the leasing office, amenity office, that smaller building is now closer to the east. The 3-story residential buildings moved to the center of the site to again get off that eastern edge with the single family neighbors. and then that is now the meandering walking path, as you can see, taking it up to Twisted Oak. The reason for that, part of the parkland discussion, Parks Board unanimously approved fee in lieu of this request, but as an extra benefit, we have added a pedestrian walking trail up to Oakhurst Park. So it's fee in lieu. There's plenty of amenities on site for the residents and also a pedestrian walking trail. Substantial green space. Usually when you see apartments, you see the number 65% over and over as impervious cap. Our impervious area is 51%. So we're basically 50-50 green space and pavement. And then a substantial landscape plan. I won't spend a lot of time walking you through all of them, but it is over 400 new trees added to the site on both phases, the south and the north. So that's a very quick summary. As I mentioned, staff report notes that it does align with the AIM objectives for this area. Unanimous approval at Parks Board, unanimous approval at Planning Commission, and you can visually see the goal of keeping that eastern edge as protected and natural as we can, and putting all the density to the west where there already is a multifamily project, put multifamily next to multifamily. With that, happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Gansberry.
Yes, thank you very much, first and foremost, and also thanks for your team that's met with me with this being in Ward 1 project here, also kind of in the neighborhood where I live and several other of our residents live in an older established neighborhood over there in Oakhurst. As we see, this kind of backs up to a lot of that property of those people that have been there a long, long time, had a lot of concerns. Very first thing, I'd like to do is thank you for, originally this was kind of a flip concept. Right. All of our living was actually going to be on what I call the residential side of that neighborhood right there. We was going to lose a lot of our trees that have been there for years, a lot of our natural grass, and our creek might have been even messed with a little bit coming down there. You heard the complaints in the community, went back, you flipped that now where that noise and everything's going to be on the same side as already student housing that's on that side right there and everything, which is great. As the housing district kind of winds around in that new housing addition on that corner, sounds like you did really great again, listening to them and everything, and moving that 3-story possibly, overlooking some of those yards and everything back there on that far corner. Putting in more parking back there where it's a flat parking lot that they're kind of looking at. But I also appreciate that you've mentioned to all of them, even though it's not mentioned tonight, y'all's going to try to keep as many of those original trees in place as what we can so that their natural site looking out their backyard is going to remain the same kind of what it currently is and everything for the most part also. So overall, I like how you worked with everybody. I liked how you worked thinking about Hitachi right there and everything, and having to come out of there, and how you're going to funnel your traffic down into our flow of traffic also, and work with the neighbors around there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Seeing no further questions from council. Oh, Councilmember Grant.
I just wanted to say or highlight the allowable uses, apartment buildings, accessory buildings related to the maintenance and operation of the property, leasing offices, pool areas, dog parks, sport courts, walking trails, fitness stations, outdoor grill areas, and similar recreational amenities for the residents of the development. And I'm happy there's no short-term rentals in there.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Okay, seeing no further questions from council. Okay, thank you. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on this item. Remarks should be directed to council only. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers registered for this item?
Yes, Mayor. Stephen Ellis. He's not here. Sherilyn Denzo.
Good evening, City of Norman residents and council. I'm very familiar with this area. My son had a house in that area in Oakhurst, and I'm pleased to see that when you are developing an area that there is a lot of green space left, and particularly since there's a creek area through there, I believe. And but again, traffic can be an issue whenever we put in a new development, and just have to take that into consideration for all of the residents in that area. So I do like the fact that there's a lot of green space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chelsea Gravel.
Do I introduce myself and my ward for this one as well?
I'm sorry.
Do I introduce myself and my ward?
Yes.
Okay, Chelsea Gravel, Ward 4. I am really glad to hear that the developer is planning ahead for the issues that they're going to be facing in this property. I heard them mention being put in next to the Section 8 housing right here, and that they're already prepared for that. I wish that I saw in their layout a little bit more preparation for the neighborhood that's in the back here. I was a nanny in this neighborhood for several years, so I walked in this neighborhood. I had friends that lived at this apartment complex. The amount of needles that are being used in this particular neighborhood complex is really terrible. The section of trees right here that connect in this back corner on the far left-hand side are used as a path between the housing on Lindsay all the way through to the Walmart on Classen as a kind of go-between that's hidden in the woods. The trash that is back there is astronomical. This was where the shooting was a few years back by the individual that lived back there that was shot when he came upon these people trying to start an encampment. So I would love to see that the developer actually builds back or puts some sort of wall in this area just to kind of protect, because it does look like he wants to also protect the people that are on there, and I'm glad to see that. Let's see. I think that's all I have, but I do wish that there was some more short-term rentals on here. I think that's something that our city can offer really well with us going into the SEC. Besides that, I'm really glad to hear what our developer has. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carlinda.
Carlinda Gravel, Ward 4. So I am excited that this may help raise up the neighborhood. Now would be a really good time to take a look at some studies. Our police department has some wonderful accesses, so maybe we could do like a radius, kind of see what we're doing in the area, what kind of crime's happening, kind of start monitoring. When we go in with developments in our neighborhoods, whatever they are, it'd be wonderful to see what kinds of impacts those are having. Now, because of some of the issues that have been brought up, about 22 years ago, I spent a lot more time in this neighborhood because I had a lot of friends and we did a lot of things over here with our kids together. So I also spent a lot of time in this neighborhood. There was a point in time when the apartment complex on Lindsay and East 24th Street went through a huge remodel, and they were having a lot of crime issues prior to that. A lot of people that they just couldn't seem to, it's an apartment complex. What are you going to do? So they ended up going ahead and remodeling. So they emptied out all the apartments. Those were really low-income apartments. There was high crime, but there was a lot of low income in there. And they moved into this neighborhood because this is where they were forced to move. There's a lot of duplexes down around the park in this neighborhood, and this is where those people had to move because they raised the rent in the apartment complex after they remodeled on Lindsay and 24th. Okay? So that's a really important part of our history. We need to know what happened before, what's happening now, and what's going to happen after, okay? So I think we need to do a little bit more monitoring than we're doing now because things aren't going the way we planned in some of the areas of our city, and we could do better, and these are the ways that we could do better, is we could kind of monitor traffic. We have those things in place. What about the water? Now, I can appreciate that all the natural plant life there doesn't require any additional watering, right? Let's be honest, a lot of low-income people, you're not going to have a lot of landscaping. and you're just not going to be using a lot of water. It's just a fact, right? You put in a higher income development or someone who has landscaping, you're going to use water. So I love the idea that we're putting in a lot of trees, but have we measured how much water we're going to need to use initially for brand new trees? Trees.
All right, anyone else from the audience who has not spoken on this item that would like to speak? Seeing none. All right, are there any final comments from council on this item? Okay, Ms. Gunner, just a couple questions. Could you speak just briefly about traffic impact on Imhoff? I know that's been a question for the other developments that we've approved. And then Hitachi, I know, has had concerns about Imhoff just in general in relation to their trucks. And you'll be right across the street from them, sort of, so.
Yeah, a lot of the postponements that got us to this point really revolved around traffic. And so a good portion of it was, where do we propose our two entrance and exits on this site, and how do we do it? And we had originally asked for some variances on the Norman's turnaround requirements, because there will be gates associated with the project. And so you might turn in, not be able to get in, and need to safely get back to Imhoff. And so we went and redesigned both on location and those turnarounds to make sure we were compliant with staff and the EDC. And so I know confidently the TIA was submitted, came back and revealed no negative traffic impacts. Part of that is because this developer will widen Imhoff on our frontage road. So it'll expand into what the city has planned for a four lane on Imhoff. The rest of it develops out as either development happens or the city comes in and finishes that project. But in front of our site, we will have that expansion, and then working through those turnarounds and the gates really negated any of the other traffic considerations.
So this, this fills that gap. It's 3 lanes in front of there, but it's 4 as you go west. So that will fill that gap. There's no light required or anything like that.
Correct, right.
And then the stormwater management, it's got a detention pond up there. There is a stormwater channel that's in that area already, as was mentioned. And so this property would be flowing into that into the detention and then into the natural creek.
Exactly right. You nailed it. That's kind of why it's proposed up there. One, it's natural and easy to kind of tap into what's already existing with the flow, but also allows us to, again, stay out of that eastern natural edge as much as we can and bring it over to the west.
And then the path that connects to Oakhurst is a connection to Oakhurst Park, and that's how you're satisfied. Well, you're paying a fee in lieu of, which would potentially go to that park, but then this connection also.
Exactly. It's kind of a little bit of a both and, right? Because you can come in and do fee in lieu, or you can do private parkland. We proposed amenities on site for the residents, and so really there are going to be private amenities. But also tapping into the already existing infrastructure and getting to Oakhurst Park is just kind of an added benefit that those residents could go walk through. And then, like you said, by not picking private parkland and by going with fee, we'll do the private amenities on site, but then also there'll be the added benefit of the fee going to that park.
And so between Red Point and this development is a lease road for a oil and gas pumping unit that's back there. That is not being touched. That's just going to be in between your two properties? Or
That's absolutely right. There will be some working with that operator, and so we may reroute it if they so desire and it works well with us. But it's an interesting road. It actually starts off-site, touches us for a little bit, and then goes off again. So it would take kind of a cooperative approach between the two landowners and the operator, but as an easement right, we can't eliminate it.
Okay. And then, is there a fence around the perimeter of the entire property?
There is not, and there's not one proposed, and the goal with that is to try and keep it natural. A lot of those single-family residential neighbors have backyard fences, and so we want to keep that. The way that works is maintenance usually comes over to the apartment user to have that separation boundary, and then Lennar, all those have new fences as well, so we didn't want to create that pest and weed issue of fence on fence and how do you get in for the 3 inches. So no perimeter fencing, but it is allowed if that becomes something that's desirable in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any final comments or questions from council? Seeing none. Okay, the motion on the floor is to adopt the ordinance on second reading, section by section. Council members, you may cast your votes.
Passed, and the motion to adopt the ordinance on second reading, section by section, passes unanimously.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt or reject the ordinance on final reading as a whole. The motion on the floor is to adopt the ordinance on final reading as a whole. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to adopt the ordinance on final reading as a whole passes unanimously.
All right, item number 23 is consideration of a preliminary plat for Coleraine multifamily, a planned unit development generally located 1,500 feet east of Classen Boulevard on the north side of Imhoff Road. I'll entertain a motion to approve or reject the preliminary plat. This is a companion item to the previous item. Are there any further questions from council regarding this item? Seeing none. Are there any further public comments?
Yes, Mayor. Stephen Ellis. Dan Munson. Sherilyn Denzo. Chelsea Gravel. Carlinda Gravel. That's all, Mayor.
Anyone else from the audience who hasn't spoken that would like to speak? Okay. And any final comments from council regarding this item? Seeing none. And the motion on the floor is to approve the preliminary plat. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to approve the preliminary plat passes unanimously.
All right. Miscellaneous comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address City Council. Due to Open Meeting Act regulations, council is not able to participate in discussion during miscellaneous comments. Remarks should be directed to the council as a whole and limited to 4 minutes or less. Anybody signed up?
Yes, Mayor. Stephen Ellis. Dan Munson.
Good evening, Dan Munson, Ward 7. First thing I wanted to start out with, I've got multiple things to talk about, is how important it is that we increase the council's pay. I think we need to go to $500 a month. And I don't want to sound like a jerk, but this isn't really for you guys. This is for the people that are going to run for council or in 10 or 15 years. And I think if we do a gradual increase in council pay annually, I think we can get it passed. So I want to continue to talk about that. The next thing is, this is your reminder that there are 885 days until the Olympics come to Oklahoma. All right. So it'd be great if we could take advantage of the infrastructure and the resources that we already have in place to highlight softball. And I think there is great opportunities before, during, and after the Olympics for the city of Norman. The next thing, I've heard in our community recently that, you know, Norman is not investing enough to create jobs. So I've got a couple stats that you guys could use with constituents. The first is, if you are a taxpayer in the state of Oklahoma, we contribute about $120 to $130 million annually to the University of Oklahoma. If you are a taxpayer in Cleveland County, we contribute about $46 million to the Moore Norman Technology Center. Both of those entities create a bunch of jobs. It appears that our city is moving forward with building the arena and the parking garage. I'd like to understand who will be reviewing all of the invoices to ensure that this project will use as much Norman-based suppliers and labor as possible. We want to make sure that all invoices have 73069 designated as the zip code for this project so that we collect all sales tax revenue possible. It doesn't do us any good for an Oklahoma City-based contractor to stop at a supply house en route to Norman and have their purchases coded to their home office. This also safeguards the city and the county to ensure that contractors purchasing brand new materials and not install used materials that were left over from a project 10 years ago. Is the city of Norman expected to provide building inspections for the arena? Inspecting the arena takes a specialized knowledge and equipment. Do we have everything that we need? Is there any specialized training that we should provide to our building inspectors? How will we backfill the hours that are dedicated to the arena to make sure that other projects don't fall behind because we're waiting on inspectors? Will we need to hire a new building inspector? Has anyone from Norman met with Oklahoma City to discuss lessons learned from the new OG&E arena at the fairgrounds? I'm hoping that Cleveland County Trust hires an event promoter.
Mayumi?
Windler, Ward 2. Okay, a few things. So, you know how certain states pay in more money to the federal government, and then other states have to take money because, well, they don't have enough? Are there any statistics about the wards in Norman? Which wards produce the most sales tax dollars? Just a curiosity. Something I was thinking about there. Okay, then on to the whole arena thing. One thing I was wondering, okay, so we've got the road that's already built that goes sneaking through there. Utilities, water, are those connections already there? Because right now it's just fields, so I'm assuming there are no water connections yet, but there is, you know, there are businesses further north. What are we charging them for these water connections? I know that's been a topic that, you know, maybe we should charge more what those services actually cost the city. So just a curiosity there. Next thing, actions have consequences. All right, so the people didn't get to or aren't getting to vote on the financing for the arena TIF. So what happens to, you know, the over 10,000 people who wanted to vote on it and now don't get to vote on it? And the election on April 7th, is it? What if they decide, you know what, Norman doesn't care, we're going to vote no? That's like over 10,000 votes. And I know our elections aren't, you know, very populated. So what if all the people who signed the petition wanting to vote decide we're just going to vote no on everything? What happens? Vote no on the road bond. Vote no for the homeless shelter. Vote no for everything. Just because I kind of feel like there's a lack of trust in the city. So actions have consequences. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Andrew Rosenau?
Hi there, Andrew Rosno, Ward 6. Consent of the governed is one of the fundamental principles of good government. The arena TIF was passed after midnight, receiving only the minimum public input required by law. All power in Oklahoma flows from the people, and the recent petition shows that the people want an opportunity to vote on the arena. I encourage this council to scrutinize what the previous council passed, look for an opportunity to challenge the ordinance in the EDA, defend our right to be heard. As you just heard, a number of our neighbors have been saying that the Supreme Court's recent refusal to honor the right of referendum has convinced them to vote no to any city bonds. And you guys just passed some to the ballot. These might fall if the people don't believe that their council is looking out for them. But this council has some inherent powers, some of which your predecessors cannot legislate or contract away. One core power is the police power, the power to protect the health, welfare, and safety of our residents. This arena represents a substantial threat to the health, welfare, and safety of city residents. The intersection of Tecumseh and Flood is a fairly well-known traffic trouble spot. Traffic analysis formed for AIM Norman shows that this intersection already experiences more traffic than it can handle. That intersection has become critical with the closure of the Porter ER 2 years ago. That closure happened after the arena plan was submitted. For many of us, including us, basically everyone in Ward 6, that intersection is the only realistic link to Norman Regional Hospital. It is 2 miles each way to go around the airport to the south or to go up to Indian Hills to the north to avoid the intersection. The previous council passed a project plan that, as far as I can tell, does not even mention this hospital and this intersection and the arena's impact on this critical transportation corridor to the hospital. When this intersection backs up, it effectively severs a single link to the hospital for all of us in North and East Norman. An arena would undoubtedly drive traffic to this area, and it's going to happen at rush hour. That's when basketball games are played. That's when concerts are held. And it's going to make an already over-capacity intersection even worse. A plan that fails to account for this vital hospital corridor should fail as a matter of public policy. I encourage this council to uphold its constitutional mandate for providing for our general welfare. The arena is a threat to our public safety from the nuisance of its induced traffic. I urge this council to use its public safety authority to prevent the arena from clogging this connection that all of us, almost all of us in North and East Norman rely on. This concern is not theoretical. We have the data to show this intersection is already over capacity. The arena portion of the project should be paused until the plan is amended to include a traffic solution that allows us access to our hospital. Or the city should ask a court to declare the plan is against public policy. For those of us who have had to drive through that intersection to the hospital with an emergency patient in the car, our lives may depend on it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Gary King.
Gary King, Ward 5. I'm here again, as you know, for the Western Farmers OEC project that we put in a request for a rescind. It's been, I don't know, a couple of months now since that meeting. And is this are we gonna go anywhere with this, or am I gonna have to take my own resources? I'm hoping I'm not gonna have to do that because it's not gonna be good. They've already started flagging and running the lines where they're gonna run. And I've already found out some more things that you guys were told that were not true about this project, the lines that are running to a certain point, that if you want to contact me, I'll be glad to let you know what I've figured out, but I'm not going to say because I know where it'll go from here if I do. I just... you know, your home is supposed to be a safe place to go and live, and they built one of these by my uncle's house when I was growing up, and he always told me that when they built that by his house, that it was just, I guess you want to say, an eerie feeling of having to live there from, you know, because it's just you know that's right next to your home. What kind of people or company, knowing that there's another site, would do this to someone and just have I mean, they can't see it from their home is kind of basically what I'm getting out of it. But I'm just hoping that you guys will consider trying to do something about this before runs out, because they are flagging it out there now. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sherilyn Denzo.
Cheryl Ann Denso, Wards 4 and 6. I want to remind council that the people in Norman are watching, and they're watching very closely behaviors and the way you react to their issues, and how disrespectful some council members are. In regards to Norman and its issues with traffic and infrastructure and lack of utilities and lead pipes in our core neighborhoods that have not been addressed fast enough, it's disconcerting to realize that we're still moving forward with projects that don't seem to be funded completely and totally. And there's no real answers to maintaining and the organizations past the projects being built. I have a real problem with us putting a lot of weight on, well, let's just see how it goes and what happens, because if you don't plan and have the funding for certain things, we will always be in the hole. We will always be behind the 8 ball. We will never be ahead. We will always be having crumbling infrastructure, and the citizens will always be angry at you. Always. There won't be anything positive about what coming to council is all about. You know, you want to do good, then do good. I do have a problem with the TIF on the backs of the citizens for the next 20, 25 years. I was recently at Crest and couldn't get out of Crest parking lot because of the level of traffic coming down that road. It was ridiculous, where I had to go way up north in order to come south. There was no way to get out of there because of the amount of traffic on a normal day. Not a game day, not a big event day, a normal day. I'm concerned about the traffic circle that's planned on Acres, right? That you all said, oh yeah, we could do that. The only way you can do that is by tearing down a library that obviously didn't have enough oversight in the building process to begin with, because it's an albatross sitting on your neck, okay? So we're going to have our virtually new library that's non-functional, that nobody can use, turned into a traffic circle. Doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make a lot of citizens happy. We don't have a big, nice, beautiful core neighborhood. Apparently the same builder built our moldy and flooded basement hospital on Tecumseh. We don't have a canteen in that hospital because that was built apparently by the same person. Okay?
Chelsea?
Chelsea Gravel, Ward 4. Thank you, council, for your time tonight. I'd first like to start out with congratulating everyone on the elections. I just looked at the results, and I think that everybody ran a really great campaign this year. I know there was some stuff that happened with some signs this year, which appears every year something happens. We might as well just laugh about it this year, but yeah. I'd like to talk with you guys a little bit about the neighborhood meeting that I attended. I live in one of the core neighborhoods where the shelter is coming. I live by Longfellow Middle School. We talked a little bit, one of my questions was about some laws that are in place. We have a state law that actually prohibits people from sleeping out on that land that runs along the shelter. There are signs out there that say that people can't go over there. I know that if I go over there, I would be approached by one of the security officers. They regularly patrol that area and keep people off the land. I guess there's people that want to videotape for YouTube and put up the buildings and stuff, so I've heard regularly they're keeping people off of the land over there. So they do have signs up that prohibit people from being there. So the police are able to remove them immediately from camping there. So that's the first ordinance that we have. That took place November 1st of 2024. November 1st of 2025, another law went into effect that now covers our state land, our city land, and our county land. Those two ordinances now cover where we've bought land for our shelter that we're building. So it's illegal for us, and I don't know what happens whenever a city breaks the law, but it's illegal for us to not remove the 20 tents that are out there. And I understand there's a little bit of a problem because the individuals will gather their things and move from state land to city land, from state land to city land, because the street's state, the property belongs to state that's in the field, the property that we just purchased is city, the property that's owned by Gene McCowan for the tiny house neighborhood, that's city property, but it's owned by an individual. So we're kind of tied up, but there are laws in place. We're not having to change laws. I know we worked really hard. Me and my neighbors worked really hard with our organizations after we heard about what was going on with the shopping cart ordinance that happened with the yellow shopping carts with Dollar General not being able to be theirs, like nobody knew, so they couldn't write a police report. So we worked with them to get the police ordinance in place that we have with Walmart to make it actually illegal to steal property, because shopping carts cost a pretty penny. And if we need to do something to fix this issue where they're able to roll from one side of land to another, and we've completely lost our police in this area, we need to support our neighbors. There was a person laying out in the street last night. It ended up being a sleeping bag. There's about 20 actual tents that would be an encampment. Encampments aren't illegal. We could have an encampment. County would have had to opt out of this law, which would have also been fine. It would have gone on county-owned property. County would have to offer a sharps container. They would have to come out and monitor the encampment every 30 days to make sure that all of the trash was being cleaned up, because we can't have this kind of stuff going into our waterways. So there would be a way, if we did want to be a city that had an encampment, to move forward having an encampment. But we didn't opt out of that. We didn't opt out of this law. And I think as a city, we're supposed to enforce our laws. That's what Anthony Purington said at our meeting, is that we do have to enforce the laws. My last 17 seconds, I do have a little note to pass on from our downtown parking attendant. She was wondering if anybody could do something about the leaves. She's worried she's going to break her ankle, slipping when she gets out of her car. So I'm just wondering if anybody knows anything we could do about that for our lovely parking attendant. Thank you.
Carlinda.
Carlinda Gravel, Ward 4, Council, Mayor. A few things I'd like to discuss with you this evening is the institution zoning for the 201 Reed area. So when we were going to rezone 718 North Porter, we were going to have to zone that institutional, and it was going to have a lot of the same amenities, actually probably fewer. And there was certain requirements and certain things that come with an institutional zoning, take into consideration what kinds of guests you have in an institution and what kinds of things you need to have in place. So in 2015, when we go back and we watch the food and shelter go in, the food and shelter representatives actually said that it was all being zoned to PUD, the food and shelter was. They went back to have part of it rezoned to SPUD in 2021, but both times their representatives made clear that all the property over there and the types that food and shelter was going to offer was institutional because it was in line with that area that was institutional, okay? So all those buildings over there and the things they offer, that's why food and shelter was such a good co-partner in that area, was because their place of what they were going to offer was in line with the type of customers or clients that were going to come to them. Why were they not zoned institutional? Now, when we went back in 2021 and their representatives asked that, we're not going to make tiny cottages into the additional property. We want to have a PUD rezoned to SPUD so we can make it the food pantry, even though at that time it was zoned a SPUD and not an institution. I don't understand that. I don't understand. Are we allowed, I'm just curious, no judgment here. Are we taking out institutional zoning? Are we removing institutional zoning and the things that qualify for institutional? I don't know if someone's going to answer it, but I would love to hear what is required for institutional zoning and how that would differ from a SPUD. Okay? The other things we need to talk about here is almost got robbed the other day, a couple of blocks from my house. We're not going to stand for that. We've had a lot happen. I almost picked this poor lady up. I actually see her quite often. Don't know if it's drugs, don't know if it's mental health. I am not an expert. I saw her walking in the cold. She's crossing Porter, crossing Main Street. She had a little short jacket on, a little purse, and her thin jeans, and she was pushing into the wind. And I actually said to Chelsea, gosh, if I knew she was safe, I would pick her up. I got a block away to my destination, and she came in after me, and I recognized her. And as I was checking out, she saw me put my money in my change purse. And she wouldn't get off my heels while I was trying to leave over by the bus stop. And I kept turning around to go back in because I was getting a little bit nervous. And when I flipped around to go back in, she started laughing. And I went, okay. And I made eye contact with the gentleman there, and he went, and I said, I think you forgot something out in your car.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Robert Castleberry.
Just short, so I'm going to make a few points. First of all, again, I want to thank you for your service. I've unfortunately been up there with you. I realize you still have very hard problems to solve. And unfortunately, none of the problems you have are easy, whether it's stormwater, homelessness, economic development, job creation, running the city. Just Daryl does a tremendous job of just running this $250 to $500 million enterprise that you have. So just want to make a couple points, though, regarding the upcoming budget that's coming up here. So when I was on council, and I think Stephen's the only guy that's left with me here, we passed a resolution to do zero-based budgeting if certain parameters hit the general fund. We are really close to those parameters hitting. So I just want to make you guys aware of that, and maybe if you can, at the next finance meeting, get an update from Daryl and from Kim about, when do those triggers hit and what we're going to have to do. And so that's something to keep in mind going forward. We also reduced the annual 2% emergency reserve to free up about $1 million a year and reduce it to 1%, because that was for emergencies, like little case we have a little ice storm or something like that that hits, it's not covered by federal or state. The idea there was to free up some money for the general fund, but also in those years when we didn't use it, was to put it into kind of a reserve account, but not a formal reserve account, because we didn't want to tie the city manager's hands that this has to be set back, but it was kind of a, hey, why don't you just kind of reserve it, so that, and let it carry forward, and ideally to that fund built up enough money that you wouldn't have to put money back in there every year. I don't think that's being done, and so I'd like you to revisit that to see if maybe that's something else that we can do in case we have these emergencies that come in. And I think it's very important that we put the stormwater utility discussion back on the front burner. It's a tough one. It's one of the few things, though, that you have control over to address your budget. You don't have a whole heck of a lot of control over sales tax. I mean, we've benefited quite a bit the past 2 or 3 years because of inflation. Not because we were selling more stuff, but just because of inflation that happened at the national level. So as prices go up, you get more sales tax. You're not selling more stuff, your prices are going up. Well, inflation is starting to under control, and so that's why we're seeing sales tax level off. But a stormwater utility is something that it's a tough discussion. I've been there twice, but it's something we really need to put on the front burner. At $5, if everybody paid $5, kind of like you do on your sewer fee, that's $2.5 million a year. And if you charge commercial a little bit more, so anywhere, we can get anywhere between $3 to $5 million a year. If we'd have done that back in 2018, what would your budget look like now if you had $3 to $5 million more to spend on stormwater and to free up that money for other operations and also to help our water quality? So I really want to encourage you to, it's a tough issue, but I think we need to put it back on the front burner because it's important from a water quality standpoint and from a financial standpoint. The last one I want to finish up, I want to make a few clarifications and some myths about the UMP TIF. And you can verify these statements with the city attorney or the finance department. The county or its authority is going to be issuing the debt, not the city. The city is in no way responsible.
Thank you, Robert.
That's all, Mayor.
All right, anyone else from the audience who has not spoken that would like to speak? Seeing none. Okay, any final comment from council, anybody? All right, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Check results.